Hey everybody, Chris here, and welcome to Marketing Monday. I'm so glad you guys are here. As always, as you hop in, pop in the chat. Let me know where you're from and your name. I'd love to chat with you. If you have any questions, pop those in the chat as well. This isn't just me or us talking at you. We want you to participate with us as well. Ask your questions. I'd love to cover them. Before I get started today, I'm going to talk a little bit about using the enemy method, or Avery Carl's enemy method, to help with listing optimization. So kind of looking at comparables in a market or what's happening in the market to make decisions on cover photos or the first 5 photos, make decisions on headline copy and just kind of copy in general or what's being said, and using some of our research to make those decisions, and not just making the decisions or making choices based on how we feel about things. So a lot of data for that. But before I get into that, I want to share, last week I talked about we're going to launch the East Coast boot camps. Well, those are officially launched now. And so we're hitting 3 cities, Orlando, New York, and then the Smokies, September 18th in Orlando, 20th in New York, and the 24th in the Smokies. One day, you can kind of see our special guests that we have, Emil and Savannah. Emil is revenue manager, incredibly awesome, former or current mastermind member, inner circle coach. And he is top of the top when it comes to revenue management. So he'd be a special guest in Orlando. With Savannah, Savannah is our social media manager. So pretty much all the social you see from Bill is coming from Savannah. So she'll be an awesome guest there. In New York, Kenny is our special guest. So that'll be a little heavier into the market, the research, that kind of stuff, in that particular boot camp. And then the 24th in the Smokies, we actually have 2 incredible goats with us, Avery and Brenna. So Brenna will be going over DTI and mortgages and kind of getting the most out of that. Or Avery obviously is the goat in the Smokies, and so it'd be great having Avery with us as well. So 3 great boot camps. Everyone always asks, is content the same as the previous ones? No, it's actually slightly different. With all of our special guests, that obviously changes the content. Each one has its own unique flair, and so we love to have you guys out. You can I'll pop this in the chat as well. That way y'all can, if you want to join for one of them or look at it later, you can totally do that. And Anthony, I see you. Looking forward to seeing New York. New York and Orlando actually have VIP dinner opportunities. So if you are interested in that, you can add that at checkout as well, to have dinner with special guests, me, Bill, and just 5 attendees are going to have that special opportunity. So I want to talk about that real quick since we actually launched it. But now let me dive deeper into what we're going to talk about today. So basically, when you look at, I might move my head slightly for this. When you look at properties, or you look at, hang on, Bill's running a little bit late, so he'll join us in a second. Let me get him this link real quick. When you are looking at competition, so this is just Gatlinburg, and I think I filtered it to 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, and above. And so there's 228 places. And what I'm looking for as I'm starting to do this, is if I'm doing this research, is a few things that the top listings or top ones that have availability have in common. So I'm trying to find my competitors, right? Or the ones that would be similar to me. I'm also trying to find trends among the top performing or the top listed listings. So one thing to remember on desktop, when you're doing this, you see more listings because of the way it displays them. On mobile, it actually shrinks this down, so you only see the one. And so the further down you are in the listings, the worse you compare. But you'll notice some things that I'm already seeing in common here. This twilight lights on with the view is super, super common. You got 1, 2. This one's borderline twilight, but light should be on inside the home. Twilight, interior, looking outside at twilight. A little darker than twilight, kind of middle of the day. So you kind of see how, how much that's a common thing. So most likely, if you have the views, that's the kind of photo you'll want to use as your cover photo. So this is the data we're looking for to make decisions on what photos we use or what we kind of want to lean for. I'm actually going to open the first 5 here, and then we'll change cities. So I'll talk a little bit about a different city as well, so you can kind of see a difference. So next thing I'm looking for is kind of what's some similarities in titles. So Lux Design, private pool, views, some of the mountains with views, great location, hot tub, game room, modern cabin, downtown, LeConte views, huge mountain log cabin with amazing views, $1 million views, hot tub, game room. So you can kind of see the key things they're trying to get here, the key things they're trying to say, one, almost all of them say the word views in it, but they're trying to hit really quick what's their separator. Do they have a pool? Do they have a hot tub? Do they have a game room? They're trying to list those things. This one's how many it sleeps. Trying to list those things really, really quick. And so one trick you could always do is actually take the individual titles, and I could actually put them into ChatGPT and take like all the titles of the different ones. And wow, that one only shows the one across the board. And use them as a sample to use, but you kind of already get the idea of if I was going to make a new title to use for any of these properties, that's what I would do. And then some interesting things, right? So even this one's the top performing one, but the second photo's a bathroom. Is that the best choice for the second photo? Absolutely not. This should be changed out for something else. Even the best performers can always have things to update and change in there. Our goal with the first 5 is to hit off as many of the amenities as possible to show off the reasons why. And so if you have views, show the views. If you have an incredible modern property, show off that's modern. Show off some of the reasons why someone would come to the property. And a lot of these, game room. There we go. Let me get into this photo real quick. Crazy, whatever this is, hot tub, pool. But if you notice some differences, how dark these photos are compared to some of the other ones that have much brighter, like how bright, I hate rooms, how bright some photos are even for darker spaces. And so brighter photos perform better. And obviously you want to hit the things that you're talking about. That one only has one photo as the start. Crazy things like bears. But this one doesn't use its top 5 as well. So the goal of the top 5, I think this property kind of does it some of the best, these two, where your goal of top 5 is to kind of give you a taste of your big amenities. So if you have a hot tub, show the hot tub. You have a game room, show the game room. You want to hit the kind of top 5 things to draw someone to go deeper into the photos and actually dive in and look at more of the property. Kind of same thing for this one, where you have incredible views, you see some of the property, and you kind of start to envision yourself there, and then you go into the photos to look at even more. This one, the property looks incredible. Lux is a great way to describe it. And so besides the bathroom here, these other 3 photos really make you want to dive in. That's something that's interesting. This one, for example, they use an interior as their primary photo, but then they don't really use a really good use of these other 4 photos, right? It's kind of similar exteriors as each other. And they could make better use of the 5 photos. So that's kind of the first 2 things is we're looking at what's common for an area or a market or your competitors of your size. What type of photos are they using? And then what's kind of the big things that you're seeing among them when they show off, or the quality of photos, or even what they're really showing off. And they're trying to hit the amenities, they're trying to hit the views, they're trying to hit the key things, that differentiators for these particular properties. Here, Bill, let me pop you in. Howdy, sir.
Hey.
So you're trying to hit the key differentiators for the particular properties. And so as you're comparing, or as you're kind of doing this analysis of competitors in the area, you can start to see what's unique, what's different, and then what you should start shaping your title, what your top 5 photos should start to look like to compete in the same kind of listings in the top market. And so, Bill, I'm kind of going through how you can use the enemy method in a particular market to actually not just get an idea of what photos commonly perform well in a given area, but also what titles typically perform well in a given area, and then using that data to then inform your decision making for your particular properties. So, for example, like this is Gatlinburg, 5-bedroom, 5-bathroom or above. How you can see most of the top performers have an exterior during twilight as the common denominator. Most use a very similar title. Almost all of them have the word views inside the title of it. But they're almost all just hitting their kind of key differentiators: private, hot tub, game room, whatever's slightly different about them. And then most are using the top 5 photos super well. A couple aren't. And I kind of were just in that example where for some reason the second photo is the bathroom in this particular property. But
that's why, because they have rooms on it, and that's Airbnb selecting it via AI.
That's very possible, and that's one of the things that sucks is reason we try and keep out of rooms as much as possible, because it makes that user experience once you get past the top 5 crappy. Because then the common things, or if you kind of notice the way it orders in this particular property, the things why someone might be coming to this property: game room, movie theater, themed rooms, the backyard patio, the balcony, all those get shoved to the end because it's going to show living room, kitchen, dining, bedrooms in order, bathrooms in order, all 5 of them plus a half bath before you even get to the other stuff, because that's the way Rooms organizes them in the photo tour, which is crazy. But that's why we try and keep out of as much as possible, or use the trick of creating the other room and then all the other photos, and then put everything in the order you want them to go in, so you can actually control that a little bit better. But what's interesting will be, so this is Gatlinburg, for example. If I actually change this area to Kissimmee, so completely different market, completely different part of the country, and I'll kind of move down towards a little bit more towards Celebration in there, how much the cover photos can drastically change, and you start to see this common trend of using a collage becomes much more standard in this particular market, because they're trying to show off as much of the theming or as much of the over the topness as possible. In most places, you can't do that with one photo, except for maybe this craziness. One photo doesn't really encapsulate it, and so it takes more than one when you're in a market where the exterior home looks like every other exterior, every other home on the block and in the neighborhood, because they all look the same and feel the same.
If you're in a subdivision, what market is that, Chris?
Kissimmee.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Exactly. Florida. If you're in a subdivision like that, or in Scottsdale, or, Phoenix, where you have the same exterior, then I would use a collage. But as a standard rule of thumb, I would not use a collage. Right. And I think that's one thing. A lot of people, I don't know if you saw the post that I put up about what people are struggling with in the marketing in the Facebook group this morning. A lot of you struggle with listing optimization. I saw people yesterday, I'm going to get rid of RankBreeze and whatever because it doesn't help me. Well, if you're not using something systematic to test, right, then you're really not doing listing optimization. You're just fucking guessing, at that point, and that can be extremely detrimental. So a lot of people we see, Chris, they come in, hey, I was on page 2 and I did what you told me to do and it didn't work. And now I'm on page 7 and then I end up on page 9 next week. It's because you're not incrementally tracking every single change. You can't. It used to be that we could just go in and update photos and change titles and do all this type of stuff all at one step, but now it's different. We've got to be very systematic in how we're testing, and I think that's the number one thing that I see people really screwing up their listing optimization, because they're not tracking. So if you change one word in your title and you go from number 7 on page 3 to number 11 on page 1, then I make a note of that in my RankBreeze log, and I never fucking change that. So like I've used HGTV a lot, and probably half my listings, right? Mm-hmm. The reason is because I want that assimilation with Wealthy Wendy, that this is a really cool high-end property that's going to look like a designer property on a television show. So I use that a lot. There's been a couple of properties that hasn't been successful. So it's also not the same thing that you see doing the envy method doesn't mean it's going to work for you. That's why we have to incrementally test it. So
absolutely.
Most importantly, say hello and let us know where you're from. Because if you're from New York, I mean, Anthony Rollo knows the deal. He's in New York. He says hello, say hello, let us know where you're from. I do want to touch on Petches. If you can put that up, I can't do that from mine the way I'm logged in. After booked every day for 3 months, August has slowed down a lot. What do you think of adding a title? Discount August rates available. That's the last thing I would do is discount. The problem is, Petches, now you're too far behind. You should have been working on this a fucking month ago, right? And any time that we go through long periods of very high occupancy, 90% plus, and then we start getting into a slower season with availability, the great part is you've just made some really great money, by going through and being booked for the last 90 days. The bad part is that Airbnb and Vrbo are not showing your property because you haven't had availability, right? So all those ones that were not booked are the ones that are showing up. So the first thing I would do is if you have availability right now, it's a Monday, I would get a 1 or a 2 night stay booking to make sure that you get a review. The second thing is I would relax your cancellation policy. The third thing is I would go through and do some of these optimization components that Chris has just been telling you about. I would update, move photos around, rearrange your top 5. And one of the biggest things that people miss in the optimization side is that they don't understand the mindset that revenue management and listing and ranking go hand in hand. So you have to know where you're ranking. You can do that one of 2 ways. You can use RankBreeze, or you can do the manual process, use an incognito browser inside of Chrome, and then go and manually search. But if you're doing that, you better log that every single day, so that way you know where you're at. That's the beauty of RankBreeze. All you cheap motherfuckers that are out there that don't want to spend $27 a month for one property for RankBreeze, I mean, come on. That is like lunch for 2 at McDonald's today. For you to get that most important information to see where you're trending, where you're at on a daily basis versus your competitors, then when you make a change to really be able to track that, if you're not doing that, you're not doing listing optimization. I can't emphasize that enough. The thing that gives me the biggest value and the biggest separator between you and me is I put in that hard work and effort, right? And I put it in on a consistent basis. I want you guys to understand, I don't have more money than you. I don't have opportunities that are different than you guys. It's because I'm inside taking these 2 extra steps and doing this work. Chris knows. He's seen it for 6.5 years.
Mhm.
And when we don't do that, we're not going to be able to get ahead. So the next thing, Pesh, is you go through and make sure that your calendars are open. Chris and I, for some reason, my calendars keep getting fucked up, and it's probably because of our tech configuration. And now Chris needs to go in every single week and check to make sure my calendars are open for at least 12 months. And for some reason, something keeps happening, whether it's OwnerRez, Hospitable, Airbnb, probably Verbo algorithm that's triggering these to shut back down to where I'm only open for like 6 months. And not only does that cost me immediate revenue because now people can't book spring break for next year, right? But also it's impacting my rankings from an availability standpoint, right? So make sure that you're taking care of your availability. I want your calendars open as far as they can go. Then the other thing is that instead of immediately lowering your pricing, right, you need to go and you need to do your revenue management research and see where the median is in your market. So Chris is using 5 bedrooms, right? So if you're a 5-bedroom, 5-bath, and you're typically 25 or 30% above, then second data point, you need to look and see if you're 30% above them, you're at 700 a night, they're at 575 a night. You need to get closer to 575. But that is not the first thing that I would adjust. I would relax my cancellation policy first. Secondly, I would go in and move my minimum. Like if you're 3-night minimums or 2-night minimums, I'm moving that to 1-night minimums. If you're 3 on the weekends, I'm moving to 2 on the weekends. If you're 2 on Sunday through Wednesday or Thursday, then I'm moving that to 1-night minimums. So I can tell you that I've been doing 1-night minimums for every one of my properties when we get inside of 14 days on every single property. Even properties I'm charging $2,000 a night for at the beach. And literally I have got one-night stay. It's actually coming up. I think this next week at Dragonfly, actually, believe it or not, there's a 1-night stay. And then you know what happened? It was a Saturday and a Sunday, and I had a Saturday off. So they did like a $2,200 booking for a 1-night stay on Saturday. Then, Chris, I went in and I upsold them into the second day. I said, hey, Sunday, because I offered it to the guest that was checking in on Monday. They declined it. I sold it to that 1-night stay. How about a 50% discount? It was like $1,250 or $1,270. Whatever it is. And now I turn that 1-night stay into a 2-night stay. So those are the things that become really important. Petch, I now have 2-night stay. Worried if I go 1-night minimum, it doesn't prompt parties. I have had one party in my entire career. Petch, everything has to do with location and price point. If you have a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom condo in downtown Philly or Nashville or Dallas or whatever, then I might be a little bit more worried about that. But also you can vet that out. I have a 1-night stay coming up at Contesca, Chris. I think might be today or tomorrow. I can't even remember. But just small things of going through the vetting process. They didn't reply to any of my messages, so I called them and I said, look, you're scheduled to arrive. You haven't replied to any of my messages. I'm going to cancel your booking, or you need to call me back with, today. I had a chat with them yesterday. They're all adults. They're coming in for a golf tournament at a nearby golf course, high end, called Diamond Creek. I kind of had some conversations, and the last tactic that I always put into place, and this is 100% true with this property, most of the time it's BS, is I said, hey, I'm out of town. I'm at one of my other properties in Montana. I will not be there. But Carl, the sheriff of Banner Elk, lives right next door, and he would be more than willing to answer any of your questions for you if you need anything upon your arrival. That's a legitimate deal. But I also use that as BS, when I put myself into these situations. So that way, hopefully they'll be a little bit more attentive, keep the party inside, do whatever. But I can tell you, I've only had one party in my career. So Petcha, if you are in an urban area, it's more likely. But if you're in an urban area with smaller properties, you should probably be doing one night minimums to compete with hotels anyways. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I want to remind people that when you look at your ranking, and this is one thing I love about RankBreeze, is that your ranking isn't your ranking because your ranking shows differently depending on what bedroom count someone's searching for. So if you meet a certain bedroom count, like I said, when I was searching 5 bedrooms and above, it was showing me combinations of different bedroom counts above 5 bedrooms. And so if you have 5, 6, 7 bedrooms, you might be showing for 5, 6, 7, 8 in multiple variations, and you rank differently for each of those variations. So that's why RankBreeze is such a great tool. Is it's not just you trying to manually log in and say, okay, well, for 5 bedrooms for this month and these dates, this is where I rank. But actually, will show you, okay, well, for 5 bedrooms and 6 bedrooms and 7 bedrooms, and it looks kind of like spaghetti, or it looks like a kind of a solid line depending on how good you are getting at it, to see where you're ranking for all of those different bedroom counts. You can actually see that spread out inside of RankBreeze.
Yeah, so Samantha asked a question in the post that I made this morning. Buy-sell trade groups. Haven't figured out how to get into groups from areas I don't live in. That's a great question, Samantha. So I'm going to use Gulf Shores as an example. Most of you, if you follow along with my buy-sell trade group strategy, and that the whole thing with scripts and everything's in the library, folks, and it's been there for 3 years now. But here's the deal. Dallas, St. Louis, Indianapolis, Chicago, Nashville. Those are my top 5 markets for Gulf Shores. So when I go and I need to join new groups in Dallas, the first thing I do is that I change my hometown of Brentwood, Tennessee to Dallas, Texas. I don't usually put Dallas. I'll put like Highland Park or Oak Park or Midtown, or Tyler or something like that to get into the groups. Then when I get into the groups, then I move it. If I'm going to St. Louis next, I move it to St. Louis or St. Charles or Bogey Hills or whatever. Then when I go to Chicago, it's, Highland Park or Oak Brook or, whatever that's going to end up being. So you got to change the city that you're in before you go and you request. Then you can move it back when you're done. The other thing in regards to buy-sell trade groups, there's a couple of bullet points that I'll give to you guys if you're not using. So these are the top 5 markets that are coming to stay with me in Gulf Shores, right? So the post is something that most of you are getting wrong. A lot of you are just posting, hey, have availability on these dates, and you post a picture and you post your link to your Airbnb listing or direct booking listing. That's not the way this works. You need an emoji stack, right? So I'd put all my value propositions, right? And this is something Chris and I go over, give you all this stuff at the boot camps. If you still want to come to New York, Orlando, or the Smokies, you probably have about 3 or 4 days, just FYI, before that ticket pricing goes from $100 to $250. So you better get on this now. But you need to emoji stack. So that's a fire emoji for the fire pit, right? That's a fishing emoji for fly fishing back here, or off of, my dock and my lake or whatever that is. Hot tub emoji, coffee for coffee bar emoji. All these things you need it. So I have like 10 or 12 emojis in it. But then most importantly, at the very bottom, I put in 3 links: Airbnb, Vrbo, direct booking if you would like to save the booking fees on Airbnb and Vrbo. So I give them the choice. The problem is we fuck everything up when literally we tell, hey, Chris, you need to book here. Mm-hmm. You only get to do direct bookings, because you hear all this bullshit from these direct booking people that say, oh, direct bookings, direct bookings, direct bookings. Yes, I want as much direct bookings as I can, but you're never going to tell me how I'm going to book. Mm-hmm. So understand that we are here to provide opportunities for our buyers, our guests, to be able to book. So you always got to include all 3 links. The next thing is response speed. Just like in our listings, this is part of our listing optimization, folks. If you go into Airbnb and you do a incognito search for your own listing, and it says guest typically replies in 3 hours, I'm annihilating you when I reply in seconds. So that's why we have our messaging for when people request to book. Immediately, something goes out. That's why when somebody asks a question, whether I'm on a flight, whether I'm fly fishing the other day, whether I'm sitting here with you, I'm still watching. If I literally get a message, I will reply immediately. And if that means that I have to tell them, hey, I'm on a Zoom right now and I'll get back to you in 3 or 4 minutes, but I can reply to them in like 30 seconds and buy myself 5 or 10 minutes, and I'm going to do that. So that response time shuts everything down, especially when somebody is requesting to book. It really irritates me when people say, hey, I respond within an hour. Well, that's not good enough, folks, because in an hour, within 2 minutes, really probably within 30 to 90 seconds, I am moving on to the next listing if you haven't replied to me, right? So what you have to do is you have to stop me from scrolling. I do use Instabook Patch on every single property, but some people don't qualify if they don't have, high enough ratings. I can't remember exactly what it is in Airbnb, but I have the strictest, ability to be able to vet before they can Instabook. So that response time stops people from scrolling. It'll increase your immediate bookings that are happening, but the same thing needs to happen in your messaging, right? So understand that the timing is critical. Woo, a lot of talking. So go ahead.
That's great stuff. I think that buying window is so important because when someone's actively looking, actively messaging, you need to get them right then, because that's when it's on their mind, they're on the site, they're ready to make a decision. And if you don't get back to them quick enough, they're already off onto the next listing, on the next place, making their next decision with someone that's actually responding faster if you don't get in quick enough.
Hey, I think Andrew Rodriguez. Well, Chris and I will see you in New York, buddy. Eric Overberger, I'll see you at the VIP dinner, and also in New York. Just people that are signing up for the boot camps right now. So I want to kind of address them and let them know. Let's see. Next question. Kakeski Marty, if you're here, she's asked about email marketing, when to send to past guests and how often. Keski, this is one of the big things that I'm actually giving you at these boot camps is my 200-day marketing funnel. There's only really 3 places that you can get this without attending one of these boot camps. One is if you're a client of Market My STR. We already have this built, written, everything for you inside of Market My STR, or in my inner circle, or in my mastermind. Outside of that, come to New York, Orlando, or the Smoky Mountains. That'll be in Pigeon Forge, and you will get this along with probably, I don't even know, Chris, another $3,000-$4,000 worth of bonus and templates and everything. But one of the big things is that you want to start sending immediately once the guest checks out, like immediately, right? And it's that first email is the indoctrination email. So if you stayed at, I was just talking about Gulf Shores, say Dragonfly, one of my properties in Gulf Shores, then you're going to get this indoctrination of why me and my wife started doing this, how we love hosting, about our family and kids. And you're going to see this property here, right? So you're going to see, I'm going to show you, hey, look at this property in Montana with geodomes and, that. And if you love the way that we hosted you, at the beach, how about my lake property? Or look at my barrel sauna and my hot tub and these windows to be able to stare at the beautiful view, whatever that is. And I'm giving you the opportunity to have the same 5-star experience that you had with me at the property that you stayed at, but I'm indoctrinating you of why, and I'm showing you what I have available if you would like to. It's never book now or the next 7 days and save 10%. That turns more people off than it does convert, right? Oh, you're giving me a 10% discount, which that's a bullshit discount anyways, because that doesn't move the needle. You've got to do 25% on any product, any service to be able to move the needle psychologically for people want to go in and make a purchase. That's why I like ticket pricing. As an example, typical boot camp, we start tickets at like $700, and then by the time you get to the door, they're like what, $1,500 to $1,750, Chris. These boot camps, they're $100 right now. We'll go to $250 in a couple of days. Then it will go to $500, and then it'll be $750 at the door, right? So it incentivizes. And here's what happens. That's why probably these 2 people booked. Once I said that, immediately after I say that on this broadcast, we get these 2 bookings. The same thing's going to happen with you guys. Urgency and exclusivity. So you need to understand, if you're going to incorporate discounts in your pricing model, you need 25% psychologically for the buyer to move the needle mentally. And then the second part is that has to have limited time and it has to have exclusivity on it. Super important. But all the way back to the very beginning, start sending out those emails immediately when the guest checks out.
Absolutely. And Eric posted this. This is also a great tip, that being specific when you have dates or openings can also drastically help when you do the buy sell trade groups, not just being general, like, hey, we have openings, because then you're going to get 1,000 of are this date available? Is these dates available? But if you have specific ones, especially gaps that come up when someone cancels, it's a great way to fill those gaps.
1,000%. I want to kind of tack on to that too. That's where, so in the 200-day email funnel, right? I want you guys to understand, for most people in vacation rental markets, especially earlier in the season, you're going to have 75, 100, 125-day booking lead times. As we get closer to ultra peak season, the times shrink, right? So if you have 125 days and you're sending out emails for 200 days, that delta, that gap is that booking lead time, right? So now that's taking you up. Now, the thing that you want to do is you want to think about adding some of these emails. So we'll take what Eric Corson just said, is you go in and you say, oh my gosh, I have a property that still has the first week of August available, or August 3rd, July 30th through August 3rd, and kids are going back to school on the 4th or 5th for most of the people in the Southeast, right? That's where you send out the email and you say, hey, I'm only sending this to you because you've stayed with me before. I appreciate your business, and I wanted to give you this opportunity. I've discounted this by 30%, 40%, 50%, whatever that is. And you can book direct and save the Airbnb fees. But this email is going out to 400 people, 7,000 people, whatever it is. So those are what we call anchors, right? So like we have about, 20,000 people on our email list, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
We have 33,000 people in the Facebook group. If I go in and I send out an email and I say, hey, I've got 3 left. So I got 3 boot camp tickets at, for $100. And this email is going out to 33,000 people or whatever the number is, then they're going to say, holy shit, that's totally different than just saying I have 3 left, right? So understand the 2 biggest things in marketing are exclusivity and urgency, but don't fuck it up by trying to create false urgency and false security. People can see through that. It always needs to be real. There's a few people that make fun of me in the industry here because I'll say, oh, we only have 3 of this. They'll come in, Bill only has 3 of these, or, he sells out in 2 or 3 days. It's all 100% fact. Because if I create that false urgency and then I take a step back and I have to go back on it, then it's never going to work again. So make sure that it's 100% legit.
Absolutely.
Chris, we have 9 to 10 bedroom properties, and changing the cancellation is hard. There is no way to change it within a certain time period. Verbo just started offering that. Was it Verbo? Yeah, Verbo started offering that to where you can use seasons for cancellation policies, right? So here's the thing I'm going to tell you about bigger properties, Heather. When somebody plunks down 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 and they have 10, 20, 30 people coming to a property. Look, I've got a 38-person occupancy property with 12 bedrooms. I get it. I know what you're talking about. I deal in large super properties. That is much easier to be able to lower your nightly minimum than it is. No, I don't know anybody that's going to bring 20 or 30 people to stay one night at some place ever. And if they do, so be it. You're still getting your nightly rate and you're still getting your cleaning fee and everything else. So when I'm talking about doing one night minimums, like one night, I only do one nights Sunday through Wednesday, right? I'm not doing one night minimums on Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays, Sunday through Wednesdays. The benefits of it are exponential. So I'll give you a little analogy. Anybody here ever heard of Shilajit? Chris, you ever heard of Shilajit? It's like mushrooms that are grown over elevations of 11,000 feet in the Himalayas. And this whole health journey that I've been on for the last 16, 17 months. I eat these 2 gummy Shilajits, and it should be called Shittiajit because it's the most disgusting stuff I've ever put inside of my mouth. The taste is horrendous, Heather. And I hate doing it every single morning, but I know what the benefits are going to be, right? So it's the same thing for us with large super properties. It's our mindset. It's our feeling that, oh my God, I can't do less than 3 night minimums. I can't do less than 2 night minimums. I'm going to lose money. I'm going to lose bookable dates. People are not going to book as a norm. It may happen as an anomaly once or twice, but they are not booking these properties for 1 night minimums. So I think you and I, with these bigger properties and higher price points, it's much easier for us to do this on these off nights, on like Sunday through Wednesdays, because we don't really have to worry about it. Chris, go ahead. Train's going by.
I mean, if any other questions, this isn't just us talking at you, so please pop them in the chat. We'd love to answer them as we're coming up on a little over 30 minutes into here. So if you have anything you want us to discuss, talk about, or any specific questions, please pop them in And for those of you who have purchased boot camp tickets that have been on the call, I can't wait to
And
see you
by the
guys
way,
in-
I don't mean
in
to
New
interrupt
York.
you. Bria says I'm really good at this, but Heather, I look forward to seeing you in the Smokies. Heather just signed up to come see us in the Smokies.
Awesome. Looking forward to
We'll
seeing you, Heather.
definitely talk more about this in the Smokies for you, Heather.
Absolutely.
All right, Chris, I got to go. I know you can stay on, but I got to go to an appointment at the new house. By the way, pay attention, folks. I'm going to put up a post later this afternoon in the group, and I'm closing on the largest single family home I've ever done. $3 million acquisition, 2 full-size homes on the property, trout stocked fishing pond, creek. It's freaking amazing. I can't wait to share it with you. I'm going to run a contest because I need to get this property named relatively quickly. And whoever comes up with the names is going to get a free $5,000 ticket to a retreat here at this property that will be coming up this fall. So I'll be announcing that here in the group in just a little bit. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next Monday. Chris, I will see you next week. Talk to you later.
Yep. Thanks, Bill. And thank you all for being here with us. As always, if there's anything you guys would like us to talk about or go deeper into, let us know. This isn't just us wanting to talk about things. We want to cover content that you guys want to see or you guys are struggling with. That's why we do this. This isn't just us making content for content's sake. We want to really hit the things home that you guys want to see or we see can move the needle for you. So thank you for being here. For those of you who did purchase a boot camp ticket, we'll look forward to seeing you either in New York, Orlando, or Gatlinburg / the Smokies. If you haven't, you're in one of those cities or close by, I really do encourage you to come. There's nothing quite like the in-person events for learning, for education, for networking. Bill really just does a great job of kind of seeing where the needs are of that room and tailoring the content really to fill the needs, answer the questions. I always joke with him, and we have been here for almost 7 years now. Back from the very first boot camp we did, I did when I came on here 7 years ago. And we had a presentation that was 100 slides long, and we're 3 hours into the day. We're on slide number 5. And that's because Bill really dove deep into what the group needed, what they wanted to learn more about. And even though we planned to go one direction, we pivoted to cover other content. And Petch, I would love to. So there's 2 sides to Price Labs, right? There's kind of some of the more advanced theories of it. Then there's just understanding and knowing how the software itself works and using the best of it. For that side, Price Labs is the best for that. But I'll definitely add to our list to go through some of the intricacies or other data and information inside of Price Labs that people may not know or uncover that is there. So I'll add that to our things to cover on future ones. And for someone starting out with new listing, initial pricing strategies to keep in mind. Actually, there's some tools. I was going to go into this, but I guess I can go into it kind of real quick. So let me share my screen, and I'll just show you some quick things inside of Price Labs for data. Where's my screen at? And then I'll get off of here for you guys. So inside of Price, let me move all kinds of stuff. All kind of stuff in the way here. I'm moving my head out of the way. There we go. Okay. So this is Elk Lodge and Price Labs, and this is the neighborhood data. So I'm comparing Elk Lodge and kind of our pricing to the market, right? And so this is kind of where you can start to see and adjust where this is for the next 6 months, right? So August 1st all the way through basically February of 2025. And then we can see where we're priced compared to the highest percentage of the market. So you can see that the 50th percentile is the darker pink. The gray is the 25th to 50th. The lighter pink is the 75th to 90th percentile. And for most cases, we're actually priced above or significantly above the 90th percentile. You can kind of see the little holidays or these little bright pink areas. So you can start to see with the data, even for, this is probably has existed, but this is how you can start to see where your pricing is or compares to everything else inside your market. So you can actually kind of see the black line is the pricing for this particular property. How when there are peaks in the market, we also have peaks. Obviously, this property is priced way above, but you'll notice that November, we're actually a little bit lower in the market pricing wise compared to a lot of other properties that are similar. So this can start to get you to lay out and you can start making adjustments. I might let Bill see that and kind of this gap in December here too. December leading into January, that we're kind of a little lower than we probably should be pricing wise. And we kind of see that because of the numbers. And this is how it kind of lets you get to know The big things understanding with price labs, and there's so many things you can do. You can kind of see some of the rules we have over here of like minimums, last minute, far out pricing. We have other things to kind of adjust things up and down. You can look inside the calendar and actually see for any given, let me get further out. For any given day, the adjustments that happen, seasonality, demand, pacing. We have our far out premium on it, and kind of just the way that things adjust in it. The big things with any of the data, one is to know the software well enough so that when you make adjustments, you actually know what the adjustments are doing. And this is one why I always come in to kind of just double check that whatever we make or change, how it impacts it, then setting your minimum and base correctly, because basically your minimum, it won't go below your minimum ever, but it bases where the rest of the pricing falls based on where your base actually is. And so all the calculations start with the base, and then it goes up or down from seasonality, demand, pacing. Then you have your customizations, and that kind of will change where it places it based on where the base actually is. Then knowing, obviously, we have a maximum set. Sometimes we don't have a maximum set. Can you move my head? Yeah, here. Let me get my head off of it completely. There we go. Actually, I can probably scroll down to you so you can kind of see a little bit of the whole set of customizations we have for this particular property. Understanding every property, every market's slightly different for the customizations that we can have or have out, or the way we adjust minimum night stays, that kind of thing. But the important part is knowing your data and knowing where you compare. And so to answer, are you deciding which months to be close to the 50th and which are even more of the 99th? Our goal is to be, that's why I said when I noticed that for these particular pockets where there's peaks here, that we should probably also be towards the higher part of the peak, just like we kind of are in these particular ones in September and into October. And it's showing you why there's college football on this particular event. That's Columbus Day. There's Woolly Warmfest. I don't know what that is, but that's why it's peaked there. College football, Thanksgiving, Black Friday. You can kind of see the events, the why things are high in certain spots. And so, as looking through some of this, looking at the data, I'm looking and seeing, okay, for these dates through the end of October, beginning of November, we might want to adjust some of our pricing in some of these spots where the rest of the market is higher than where we currently are. Because the data is telling me that's what we should be able to get for those dates. And we're far enough out. We're about to get into August. That's November, where we can push it a little bit higher. And we have time to make adjustments as we get closer. Plus the everything else would be driven that way. And so there's lots of things we can kind of look at, including like what's the booking window, what's the typical stay for the market's ADR, and kind of looking through for different bedroom counts, we can kind of see some of those different things. And then Pesh, you use the preset market driven. We use as much of the AI as possible for it, while continuing to go in and make some manual adjustments. So some things we do based on recommended, some things we'll go in and just manually adjust, some things will change, but the data is the data, right? And so understanding the tool, the reason that Price Labs is such a valuable tool, because one, it's basing its data off of actual bookings and pricing from other listings. And then two, it's also basing data based on what's compression events or what other events are around those things. And so because of that, we want to use the tool itself to be able to adjust as much pricing as possible. So it knows things before for it. Patch, the whole thing's AI. So the way that it learns and adjusts the algorithm it uses is artificial intelligence. And then we can actually look at, so like there's these AI insights. There's one of the newer features that they have inside of it. And so it can see, it can kind of give me some places that we may want to adjust some information, some dates where things are higher. And so, what they're basically trying to do is one thing that Sorry, you can't see my screen. I apologize. I was totally clicking into stuff and I totally wasn't talking about it. So under future prices and neighbor data, there's this AI insights, and it kind of goes through the beta access thing. So it goes through and kind of breaks down the chart into some key information points. And so for our pricing, but also for the market, your current prices are par with past ADR. November 24th, 28th, or Thanksgiving, market prices are higher compared to surrounding dates. Christmas, those are higher, but also Valentine's Day around there, market prices are up higher. So the amazing thing about artificial intelligence, this is one of the things that we talk about a lot for like content creation, but one of the other things it's really, really good at is analyzing data. And so that's what a lot of these companies like Price Labs are starting to integrate into it, is that one of the hardest parts is interpreting data when it comes to what pricing or trends, but artificial intelligence, AI, is really, really good at doing that kind of stuff. And so that's what they're starting to roll out into more of it. But if you haven't gone through, Price Labs has some incredible, and obviously you can use Wheelhouse. They're all do a similar thing. Their algorithms are just slightly different. But Price Labs has some great trainings, so you can kind of learn some of the advanced features, some other ways of understanding how the portfolio itself works. You can watch their trainings on demand. So if you haven't gone through a lot of that stuff, always tell people whenever it's like OwnerRez or Price Labs or Hospitable or any of these softwares you may use as part of your tech stack, you want to know as much about it as humanly possible. Even if you aren't the one setting it up, if you aren't the one who's modifying it on a daily basis, for example, OwnerRez, you may not have set OwnerRez up. You should know as much about it as possible, because there are features that change, things that adjust, things that happen. You want to know how to go in and make adjustments to things. So same thing with Price Labs. The more you know about how the tool works, the more you use the tool to your advantage to do more advanced pricing adjustments, things like far out adjustments. And they adjust based on gaps and different nights, and have these things happen automatically for you instead of you have to manually go in there and adjust them. So doesn't take over for someone who's like a revenue manager. There's a reason that people who do that for a living are incredible at it, because they're in it all the time, looking at the data and the numbers and making small tweaks, dollars literally here or there, to try and get the algorithm to make adjustments to things. But the more you know about the tool, the better you can use the tool for you to get the most out of your pricing and revenue management. So awesome, y'all. Thank you guys for being here. Catch you guys on next week's Marketing Monday. As always, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you are joining us from one of our boot camps, look forward to seeing you. I'm really excited about them. They are always a blast, and excited for the next round of tours that we're going to go on. So catch you guys next Monday. Thank you for being here.